basically the floor of the camper has gone on.
It's another big day in the world of expedition camper building as we actually get underway building the camper today. This is very exciting, although we actually only test fit all of the walls and the ceiling together just to make sure they all fit and that all the extrusions fit and any little trimming we have to do in the corners of extrusions are all put together. So I stick out my tongue, but ultimately get to my smiley face as we get to cleaning and unwrapping every single one of the walls and the ceiling panels and clean them absolutely thoroughly with lots of rubbing alcohol to get all the tape marks and dirt and everything that's accumulated over there. 3 months or so of storage while the truck chassis was delayed on getting delivered. So timing would have been perfect if that hadn't been the case, but nonetheless, the walls and the ceiling of the camper did pick up a lot more dust in that storage time. So now we got busy on cleaning it, scraping down the sides where all the glue will be adhered to, and also for all the extrusions, which we had to pull all those out, unwrap all of those, and clean them all up thoroughly, and also essentially mark them or align them for which wall or floor section that they would be going to, and then test fitting them all in this essentially test fit mock-up. So we're going to go through that today in this video. Hang on. And certainly thank you for joining me again in this Expedition Camper build series. This, I believe, is video number 18 in this camper build series. And now we're actually finally getting to building the camper, with all the previous videos really focused on the chassis selection and chassis preparation. Fortunately, the EarthCruiser subframe that I had them build to the specifications I requested with the mounts in the exact spots, we're exactly in the right spots. And so they lined up with the subframe mounts in the camper floor, and so everything bolted right up, as you saw in my previous video, just exactly as it should have, and that was fantastic. So cred and kudos to them. Certainly also kudos to Total Composites for providing all of the extrusions and camper panels in exactly the right dimensions, and everything went together really well. We got busy after we cleaned up and unwrapped all of the wall panels in ceiling and extrusion sections to go ahead and taping out the, as you can see here, the actual electrical conduit mounts that are inside the ceiling. There are 5 of those inside the ceiling. And once the whole box is put together, we will not know where those electrical conduit mounts are other than from the dimensions, which if those dimensions aren't perfectly measured out, it would be hard to find those and tap those without just drilling continuous holes until finding them. So to avoid that, we tape those out right now from end to end when we can see the open ends where those electrical conduits are. And then we remove the tape from the very ends where the extrusions will go over it. So that way the tape does not interfere at all with the adhesion of the sealant and the extrusion. But nonetheless, this tape will remain on until the cabinetry is built and lighting is installed with the wiring going into those electrical conduits. We also do the same for marking out the awning mount that is on the side wall and any other mounts that are within the rear walls, which are structural mounts for mounting things to the rear walls. So this is a bit of work going through this process, make sure everything's perfectly aligned and taped out, but nonetheless, it's an exciting part of getting this camper built. And we already have here, as you can see, the front wall test fitted. It is stood up in the extrusion that was already glued on with the front floor corner piece that was when it was mounted. And partly it's because when I specified the specifications for this camper build, it essentially sits only about 1 inch off the cab. And after quite a bit of work, we got hungry.
Dessert? Yeah, I cook desserts. Oh yeah, Traegers.
What do you cook on it? What kind of desserts?
My favorites, cobblers.
Yeah?
Because it gives that smoky thing. I like that.
Oh, really?
The smoke.
I do cobblers in a Dutch oven. That's
what I was about to say. That's what I do. That's
where
going to
it's
be.
at.
That's my oven in my van. Is a Dutch oven. I love Dutch oven cooking. I'm so good at it.
Yeah, it's so fun.
I cook desserts in that thing.
Oh yeah. Something like an apple pie coming out of a Dutch oven.
Nothing like an apple pie coming out of a Dutch oven.
Yeah, you pretty much just got to eat it all. You can't.
Cobblers.
You can't really leave it
Once you're
behind.
done,
Cobblers.
just do it. Cobblers the win.
As we work up an appetite, cleaning off all the panels with lots of rubbing alcohol and taping the structural supports as well as the edges of the extrusions. So as we put them on with adhesive sealant, that adhesive sealant won't spread out onto the panels.
That was pretty
Yeah.
fun.
Hey, speaking of cobbler,
The
it's right
the
now
marine,
11:50.
you can order
You
a
wanna wait?
full
Thinking,
meal.
let's eat before we throw this up there. We don't not eat while this thing's hanging up there
Let's go.
in the wind.
Let's,
And so, you know, acting as a sail.
let's head over.
Getting back from lunch, we are all smiles as it was a good decision to break for lunch, especially before lifting up the ceiling panel as we're about to do. You can see here the very tight gap between the back of cab and also the front wall of the camper. And here we are about to twist over the ceiling panel so we can make sure we have all the ceiling tape and extrusions on so that they're all in the right place when we get around to actually gluing all these pieces together, that glue or adhesive sealant does not spread out over these panels. It's a fair amount of work. You can see there's quite a bit of thought that goes into all of this, having everything clean and make sure everything's set up. It's a very precarious maneuver to lift the ceiling panel up, but it must go up before the sidewall panels go on. Or not must, but in our case it did. We did not have a forklift or some other lift to lift the ceiling panel up. Even if we did, how would we necessarily get the forks or the straps out from underneath the ceiling panel with the sidewalls in place? So we came up with this contraption here, or Hunter RMV did, very ingenious, to go ahead and lift up the ceiling panel. It is nonetheless precarious, but we had beautiful winter weather and no wind, so this made it very comfortable to get out there and work in the sunshine and without the winds, lift this ceiling panel up into place, and that then enabled us to put the extrusions on for the sidewalls and then test fit the sidewalls into those extrusions. Again, this is all without adhesive sealant, so everything is going to later be all taken back apart, much to my chagrin, that we have to then go and take it all apart and reassemble it all back together again with the adhesive sealant. So it is a two-step process. Build it once, test fit everything, make sure everything fits right, take it apart, and then build it again with the adhesive sealant that lets everything basically be structurally sealed and adhered together as one solid piece in the future. Now, this is my first expedition camper that I've ever built, so I learned a lot through this process, and I have to say, Total Composites did a great job. Everything was perfectly cut and all to the exact dimensions as specified and as I guided them to do per my design. So they get certainly kudos for this without a doubt. Another kudos goes out to Hunter RMV because they certainly have done this several times and really had a lot of guidance and knew how to do this and very good direction and instructions as to how to proceed. And I was fortunate to be able to build this with them. As you can see here, lots of ladders, people walking around helping, suction cups to lift up these panels, and stands to hold up the ceiling as we lay it into place on top of the sidewalls and front wall. Also, certainly not only many hands to make this all go together, but also squares to square up all the corners, floors, walls, and ceiling to each other to make sure they are at 90 degrees to each other. And all worked out.
I haven't gone in squared on the inside, but
Looking good.
Yeah, it's pretty perfect. It was hard getting around that front corner because you're getting a little caught on the inside there, but all right. Wow, what do you say, guys?
that looks great.
I'm ready for some beer.
There you
And then
are.
we get to come back the next morning and take it all apart after all that work to put it together. And we take it apart and we basically make sure everything is all ready to go to be glued up so that all the pieces can be glued together and actually assembled and structurally strong as one piece. This is an amazing day. It's an amazing part of the build of this project. It was so much fun to work with the Hunter RMV team and have their help on this. And certainly I look forward to sharing the next video with you on the actual building of it, with it all being sealed up together and the challenges associated with that. And some tips and tricks, of course. And also I'll go over more in a future video on my design and why I have squared off departure angles. So with that, we will be coming up soon on all of that. So hang tight and thank you for sharing and subscribing and watching my videos.